Hello, Year 2, how are you? And welcome to this week's science lesson. Now, in our science lesson last week, we looked at different ways that animals can have babies. Can you remember the different ways? Yes, fantastic, you're right. They can either lay eggs or give birth to live young. I wonder if you can remember which groups of animals lay eggs and which give birth to live young. Well, today we're going to be carrying on with our growth and survival topic by looking at how humans grow as they get older. So we're going to be focusing on the different stages of a human's life. So by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to tell me, you'll be able to name the different stages of their life. And you'll also be able to describe what humans are like during these different stages. But before we do that, I'd like to see how much you can remember from the topic so far. So I am going to be describing some animals to you using some of the vocabulary that we've learned over the last few weeks. Now, once I've described the animal, I'd like to pause the video and have a think using the clues that I've given you what animal I am thinking of, and then come back to the video to see if you're correct. Okay, so the first animal. This animal is a herbivore. This animal gives birth to live young, and this animal's offspring is called a foal. Let me repeat that. So this animal is a herbivore. This animal gives birth to live young, and this animal's offspring is called a foal. Okay, pause the video now and have a think. What animal am I thinking of? Okay, Year 2, have you managed to work out what animal I'm describing? Well, I was describing a horse because a horse is a herbivore. It eats grass, doesn't it? And it gives birth to live young. Now, why does it give birth to live young? Yes, it's because it's a mammal. Well done. And a horse's offspring is called a foal. Well done if you got that right. Now, let's try the next animal. So this animal is a carnivore. This animal lays eggs. This animal has scaly skin, and to make it a bit easier for you, this animal slithers. Let me repeat that for you. So this animal is a carnivore. This animal lays eggs. This animal has scaly skin, and this animal slithers. Okay, pause the video. Can you work out what type of animal I am describing? Okay, so I was describing Year 2 a snake, because a snake is a carnivore. It eats meat and it lays eggs and has scaly skin. Now, why is this? Yes, it's because a snake is a type of reptile, just like a crocodile and a lizard. Now, I gave you the last clue because I thought you might think it was a crocodile, and I told you that it slithered, which is how a snake moves, isn't it? Okay, let's try the last animal. So this animal is a carnivore. This animal has a beak, wings, and feathers. This animal lays eggs and it lives in cold climates. Okay, let me repeat that for you. So this animal is a carnivore. This animal has a beak, feathers, and wings. This animal lays eggs and it lives in cold climates. Okay, pause the video now. Can you work out what animal I'm describing? Okay, so I was describing a penguin because a penguin is a carnivore. A penguin eats fish, which is a type of meat, and it has a beak, feathers, and wings, and it lays eggs. Now, why is this? Yes, it's because a penguin is a type of bird. And as we know, it lives in cold climates. Well done if you managed to guess those three animals. I think I'm going to have to make my clues harder next time, aren't I? You're too good. Okay, so let's move on to today's learning. So here we have a picture of a baby, a child, and an adult. Now, which of these people is oldest and who is the youngest? Could you pause the video and have a think for me? Okay, so which of these people did you think was the oldest? Because we have a baby, a child, and an adult. Well, yes, we know that an adult is the oldest out of these three, don't we? And who is the youngest? Is it the child or the baby? Well, a child is normally between the ages of 3 and 12, and a baby is between the ages of 0 and 1. So who is the youngest? Yes, you're right, it's the baby, isn't it? The baby is the youngest, and then it's the child, and then finally it is the adult. Now we know this, don't we? But how else could we tell that the baby is the youngest and the adult is the oldest? Pause the video now and have a think. Okay, so we could also tell that the adult is the oldest and the baby is the youngest by looking at their height. Because from the time you were born, when you're a baby, until the time you become an adult, you get taller, okay? So when you're a baby, you're very small. And then by the time you're an adult, you have grown and you are much taller. Now, which parts of your body do you think grow as you get older? Pause the video now and have a think. Okay, yeah, too. So as you get older, you get taller. So that means that your legs grow, but also your hands grow and your feet, and even your nose and your earlobes grow as you get older. Okay, so we've got the baby and the adult. So the baby is going to have much smaller hands, legs, feet, nose, and earlobes than the adult is, because all of these parts of your body grow as you get older. Now, here we have got 5 pictures. We've got a baby, a toddler, a child, a teenager, and an adult. Now, these pictures show the different stages of a human's life. So you start as a baby, and then you become a toddler, then you become a child, and then a teenager, and then an adult. Now, can you see that in each stage you get taller, don't you? Because your legs grow. Now, we are going to be looking at each of these stages one by one and looking at what a human is like at these different stages. So let's start with a baby. So a baby is between the age of 0 and 1 year old. Okay, now when you're a baby, you have very little control over your body. So for example, you can't control your head. So when you're holding a baby, you need to make sure that you're holding their heads to help them control their head. And this means that they need an adult to take care of them all of the time and give them everything that they need. So for example, the adult will give the baby milk to drink. Now, if you know a baby, you will know that when they're born, they can't sit up, they can't crawl, and they can't walk. Okay, so they can't sit up, they can't crawl, and they can't walk, and they can't control their body. Now, as they develop, they are more able to sit up. They can start to hold things, hold objects in their hand, and they begin to eat solid foods. So rather than baby foods, they eat solid foods. Okay, now I just said as they develop. What does that mean? As they develop, because they start not being able to sit up, not being able to crawl, and not being able to walk. But then after they develop a little bit, they're able to sit up, hold objects in their hands, and eat solid foods. Well, develop is a verb, okay? It describes an action. And it means to grow or change over a period of time. So a baby is between the age of 0 and 1. And over that time, they develop, okay? So they go from not being able to sit up to being able to sit up. So they develop over that short period of time. They change, they grow so that they go from not being able to sit up to being able to sit up. And you can see as well on these different stages of your life, you develop, so you grow and you change over a period of time. So a baby is a lot smaller than an adult. The baby has changed a lot by the time it becomes an adult. Okay, so how can an adult, as I said, because they have to have lots of help from an adult, how can an adult help a baby? Can you pause the video and have a think? Okay, so an adult can help a baby by feeding it milk, keeping the baby clean, so giving it baths, and healthy by changing its nappy, and as I said, giving it baths. So there's our first stage of a human's life. So you were born as a baby, and you are a baby until you're 1 year old. Now, can you remember what the next stage is? Yes, you're right. The next stage is a toddler. Now, a toddler is between the age of 1 and 3. Okay, now when you're a toddler, your muscles start to develop. Okay, so you get stronger, which means you are now able to stand up on your own. Now, once you're able to stand up on your own, you start to learn how to walk, don't you? But toddlers also start to learn to say their first words and to also feed themselves, okay? So their moms and their dads no longer have to feed them. They can start picking up a spoon and feeding themselves. And they also say their very first words. Now, toddlers like to investigate everything. They like to look at everything, and they're always playing and learning at this age. Okay, so once they can walk, they're running around everywhere and they want to know what everything is, and they love to learn new things. Now, again, toddlers need a lot of looking after because they haven't yet learned how to keep themselves safe. Okay, so even though they've developed from being a baby, they still need their parents to look after them a lot. So we've had babies which were age 0 to 1, and we've had toddlers which are age 1 to 3 years old. Okay, can you remember the next stage of a human's life? Yes, you're right. We went from a baby to a toddler to a child. Now, here are our children. Now, children, as I said earlier with the girl on the first picture, are between 3 years old and 12 years old. So this is the stage of your life that you're in at the minute. You're real children, aren't you? You are all either 6 or 7 years old. So therefore, you are between 3 and 12 years old. So what do we know about children? Well, children still need an adult to take care of them. You all need your parents to still take care of you. But you have learnt to do lots of different things, lots more things by yourself. Okay, so you're a lot more able to do things by yourselves, more able than a baby and a toddler would be. Now, your muscles have developed even more than a toddler's. So a toddler's muscles developed so they could learn to walk, but your muscles have developed even more because when a toddler walks, they sometimes fall over and they wobble. But at your age, your muscles have developed so much that you can walk and run steadily, so you don't wobble and you don't fall over that often. Now, your brain is also developed. Okay, so your brain has developed from when you were a toddler. So this means that you can learn how to read and write and do all sorts of other things. So at school, you learn to read and write, don't you? And that's because your brain has developed. But a toddler wouldn't be able to do this because their brain is not yet developed enough. Now, what else might tell us that somebody is a child? Could you pause the video and have a think? Well, when you're a child, you can probably have wobbly teeth. Am I right? Do you all have wobbly teeth sometimes? Well, that's because when you're a child, you lose your teeth, don't you? And then you have your adult teeth grow. And you also might have new shoes quite often because your feet grow very quickly and therefore you need new shoes all the time. Okay, so we have learnt about babies 0 to 1 year, toddlers 1 to 3 years, and children. Can you remember the age of children? Yes, 3 to 12 years old. Wow,